What's up, guys? It's me, Jesse, and we are back with more Tower of God content. Now, I guarantee you have not seen a video or even read a Reddit post on Miseng if you ever even thought about looking for one. And if you were actually interested enough to click on this video knowing it was about Miseng, then I have to salute you because I know you share a deep passion for Tower of God, as I do. It's easy to sleep on Miseng and write her off as a relatively useless character and the token kid of Sweet and Sour team, but if you're willing to read a little slower and pay attention to her dialogue and her scenes, you'll find an understated arc of a young climber learning to overcome her weakness as her innocence is forcibly ripped away from her. Her journey, along with the rest of Sweet and Sour's, reinforces the idea in the tower that the only way to climb is to lose what makes you human. Miseng is introduced to us as a scared and rather useless little girl. She gets through the first exam only by sitting on the sidelines and watching the boys fight it out, and spends the rest of the untrustworthy room arc cowering in her room as Goseng ventures forth to gather the others. There's a deep fear of abandonment in her, and that fear paralyzed her after it was realized multiple times during her climb. We know she was abandoned by teammates that carried her up to the 20th floor, and wants to make herself useful but is too weak and too scared to do so. It really doesn't help that she's a scout, and ideally should be prepared to go out on her own and take risks for the rest of the team. She's more so used it as a device to bring out the best in Arcrafter in her debut, showing his own style of affection and leaving us to wonder about her relevancy for another few chapters. Ultimately, her introduction and the growth that she needs are clear. She's a scared little girl who wants to make her parents proud and become a strong regular, but she's held back by fears of loneliness and abandonment. She lost her family going in, and she'll need a new one to make it back out. Then in the Zigana Whale arc, we begin to see the start of Miseng's growth, where she finally gets a hint of courage. On the surface, this arc serves to simply introduce Bomb to Urek and showcase Bomb's determination, but we also find that Miseng is now willing to risk more to prove her worth to the team. With the added trust between their groups, she's motivated to go further and take a bigger risk by chasing after the baby whale in the narrow passage. Wang Nan's group could have went around the obstacle and potentially lost the flower, but Miseng was able to face her fears and take the shortcut. Now, between this time and the workshop, she continues her intense training, and it's noted that she's one of the most driven on the team after Kuhn whips them into shape. She's still a child, though, and needs to be comforted even as high as the 29th floor. She puts the blame on herself after Viol and Horyang leave, recalling her earlier abandonment, and she thinks if she was stronger they wouldn't have left. That's what leads her to accept Verity's offer in the workshop to take the flower and attain power at the cost of her sanity, but Prince is correct when he states the irony here. Even though Miseng has become stronger, it's still a borrowed power. All of the training that she puts in is her own, but the power-up comes from the flower that was taken. She's still dependent on others. But that's one of the lessons of climbing that Sweet and Sour was trying to showcase. It's okay not to handle everything yourself. Ever since the second floor, it's been known that climbing the tower requires a team. Even Prince couldn't stop her on his own. He needed Wangnan and Arcrafter to help rein her in. And in those instances when people do try to handle everything themselves and bite off more than they can chew, well, that's when we get what's coming next. The Wangnan arc is a turning point in Miseng's development, and it's when I first notice how she's grown over the series. Even though she's still physically weak, it becomes evident that her determination isn't really just for safe situations, where she has a fallback like the rest of her teammates. She's truly at her lowest in this arc. After watching Joaquin devour Prince's literal soul, she's left in a catatonic state. For someone with her mental age, this might be a nearly impossible trauma to move on from. Yet it isn't long after when she actually shows incredible resilience, and is able to keep Wangnan motivated. She refuses to submit to Rachel even after he caves, but is quick to swallow her emotions and lead Kasano out. She's tasked with keeping Kasano in check and facing her old teammates all on her own, and carries it out effectively. This moment is understated, but Bora and Sachi are right when they notice it's really like Miseng grew up since the last time they've seen her. Before, she was dependent and needed to be babied. Despite wanting to be stronger and fit in with her team, she hadn't gotten any opportunity in her first arc to make any impact. She looked for more power and trained as hard as she could, and luckily had an encouraging team in Sweet and Sour to support her, but even then it just wasn't enough. She still needed more power, and took the flower to try and prove herself at the workshop and gain some much-needed security. Yet here she learned her first big lesson, that she wasn't in it alone. She could grow with her team supporting her and they could climb together, and that might have carried her through the next few floors. But now, of course, the training wheels are gone. I think Prince's death was the moment she truly entered the tower, so to speak, and she now understands the level of cruelty that she needs to be prepared for. We've once again been reminded that strength is the only currency in the tower. With the loss of Prince, she's really had to grow up emotionally and not only be there for herself, but for Wangnan as well. When Wangnan tells Miseng to leave, she's insistent on supporting him, and I think this is her attempting to take more responsibility. She says she can't forgive Rachel and seems even angrier at her than Wangnan. So when she sees her old teammates again, she doesn't come crying to them, but instead carries out her mission. It's unfortunate that she's again reduced to a hostage and rendered comatose for the entire Hidden Floor arc. Frankly, it really just makes no sense to me that things turned out that way, but what's important is that afterwards, we see that diligent side of her come out again. She uses Andrassi's clicker to train rigorously, bottling up her emotions and channeling them into her abilities. And this is the Miseng that we currently have. A child thrust into a heartless world who never got the chance to properly process her grief. Her regrets fuel her inner rage and grant her violent power, but underneath it all is the desire to protect her teammates and ensure she doesn't fall prey to her earlier weakness. In my eyes, that actually makes her a lot like Bomb. She's concerned with protecting those important to her, yet she's lost people much closer, and not in the same way that Bomb lost Rachel. Even though it's never been at the forefront, the development and trauma that SIU has put Miseng through is probably one of the best written and most believable arcs in the series for a character. It isn't rushed, and each event has a good amount of weight behind it to spur her forward. She's become a fighter with rage as the source of her power, and it'll be interesting to see if SIU takes that anywhere. Okay, now let's be honest, Miseng is a minor character, and at most she'll be someone to emotionally tether Wangnan and make sure he doesn't steer too far from the path. I do not believe that SIU has the capacity to truly push Miseng's writing further, but hypothetically, if we were to take the arc that SIU has subtly given her, there are a couple of ways she could continue to develop. One way is to have her continue to channel her anger and use it to help carry her team up the tower. She'll truly develop a berserker mode that she can use, a little bit like Evankel, and she may become more burdened by her failures and build up this rage for an eventual confrontation with Rachel's team. The other direction she could take, and I think this would require even more time and effort from SIU, is to have her start on this path, but be reined back in by her teammates, probably Goseng and Wangnan, to help her work through her emotions and learn to control her impulses while unlocking her hidden potential. And this would give her kind of a similar inner conflict to Yiwa, where Yiwa's trying to control her power. Wangnan's always been the type to put things on himself, so it's easy to see him trying to take the weight off of her and then storing it inside himself internally. But given their scenes in the Wangnan arc together, it seems like they're more willing to share with each other going forward. So it's honestly hard to say who would actually bear that. Either way, I don't think we'll really ever see any of this happen, but it's still a lot of fun for me to speculate, and I hope I've given you all some ideas to mull over as well. And I hope if you ever do reread the comic again, you'll be able to notice a bit more of the clever writing that SIU puts into Miseng's arc. So thanks a lot for watching, guys. If you want to discuss more Tower of God, please tell me if you want any videos to recommend in the comments. Please join our Discord. I'll post a link in the description. And another selling point on our Discord, all you Miseng fans, we finally have our first ever Miseng emote. Credits to my girl Emiko. I'll put a link to her channel as well. She's super awesome. She makes incredible art. And so now we have this awesome Miseng emote to showcase too, so even more of a reason to join the best Discord server in history. So thanks a lot for watching, guys, and I'll see you on the next one.